Alright guys, so the other day I was scrolling around on YouTube and I saw this video that was titled The Worst IEM of 2025. Now, a video titled this is obviously going to catch my attention because this is the type of thing that I cover. And so I watched the video on this product, which is the RUMAUDIO Blues. Now this is a newer audio company. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is their first IEM. But it already kind of had me intrigued. Is this really the worst IEM of 2025? It does come in at $200, so that is kind of pricey. But this is an IEM that has 12 drivers total. In fact, it uses 6 balance armature drivers in each ear. It is using the crossover system so that everything doesn't kind of overlap. So there's a lot of things right there that kind of, stand out. I think this is pretty interesting. So I really wanted to see if this was the worst IEM, at least out of the ones that maybe I've tested this year. So the first thing is from a design standpoint. Now, when you look at the packaging, pretty clean. I like the simple look here. The IEMs themselves are very simple. It's very clean. Not anything that's going to stand out. It does come with a nice big pleather case. I would actually say this is a little too big. It does allow you to house the IEMs, the ear tips, the cable itself. All of that stuff can just be packed into this case. But I don't think it's as portable as some of the other ones. So I would like to see at least a smaller option available. Now, as far as the ear tips, it does come with 3 different style of ear tips, and you get the small, medium, and large in each style. Now, I will say this, in the packaging itself, it has like 2 rows, 2 different styles, and then it has a bag of ear tips inside the pleather case, which is where the cable is housed. So I think it's kind of like aiming you to use the ones that are in the case. But the better ones, in my opinion, are the clear ones, or maybe even considered white. I felt like that definitely made a difference in the sound quality, at least to try to pull out exactly what it is I'm looking for. But we'll talk about that once we get to the sound. Now, the cable that they've included, it is a silver plated cable. It's black, which kind of gives these a very subtle look. Again, it matches really well with the IEMs itself. It does use the 2-pin connector to plug into the IEMs. And then the end that plugs into a device is just a normal 3.5mm jack. And they don't include a 1/4-inch adapter. There's no 4.4mm balanced plug-in. I would have liked to have at least seen 4.4 or a 1/4-inch. I mean, 3.5mm is very common. Anything that has a normal headphone jack, this can just plug straight into. But I use the Theo K11 amp, and I only have the 1/4-inch and 4.4mm balanced options. But luckily, I already have the adapters to be able to use these. And as far as actually using these with an amp, I wouldn't say it's required. I mean, the impedance level on these are only 26 ohms. The sensitivity level is 102 decibels. It is very easy to drive and get some decent volume out of. But if you really do want to pump these up and get some more out of the lows, the mids, and the highs, obviously, and I say this with all IEMs and headphones, you are going to want to use an amp to just really get the most out of the product that you're using. So now let's just go ahead and jump into the sound. Now, I talked about the ear tips earlier, and again, the ones that are in the pleather case, which kind of have like a gray with the red and all of that, I did not like the way that those sound on these IEMs. And I think that might be the initial thing that would turn people off. That's going to be the first one you grab because it's right there with the cable, and it's way too bright and not enough body in the sound with those ear tips. But as soon as I switched them over to the clear or the white, the low end started to come out. Now, this is not a bass heavy IEM. It doesn't really do a fantastic job with the sub bass. So if you're a bass head and you like to kind of have that bass rumble, I wouldn't put these in that category. But with the clear ear tips, it is a fast but still punchy sounding low end. It's able to keep up, especially if you listen to faster genres like metal. It does a really good job with the drums. And the mids on these, I feel like they do a really good job with. Now, this was testing again with a bunch of different genres. Acoustic instruments had really nice presence. Male and female vocalists both sounded good. And the treble on these were nice and bright. Now, some people might consider it to be harsh. I didn't notice any sibilant sound with the S's or anything like that, but it definitely is kind of pushed to that point of having a bright tuning. So if you look at this from like a normal consumer standpoint and you're looking for like that U or V-shaped tuning, that's not what these are. Now, this is not a flat or reference sound either. Again, it still kind of peaks a good bit towards the mids to treble. It's just not going to be that overly exaggerated bass. But when it comes to the soundstage and the sound imaging, I was pretty impressed here. It definitely sounds like a pretty wide open earbud, and it does such a good job with details that it even does a good job with being able to separate each thing and be able to tell where everything is coming from. So my overall opinion is this: as much as I always say that sound is subjective, and I still believe that, I would not even come close to calling this the worst IEM of 2025. I've definitely tested much more that are worse, some that are more expensive than these, some that are much cheaper than these. I do think the $200 price tag, there's just so many options in this price range. And if you're not looking for this specific style of sound, again, if you just like a more full-bodied sound and you like a lot of warmth in your IEM, I wouldn't recommend these for that. But if you are somebody that likes to pick apart a lot of details and you like a lot of focus on the mids to treble, this is a really good pair for this. And I think the $200 kind of hits the sweet spot. I do think that there needs to be a smaller case. I do wish that there was a 1/4-inch adapter or that 4.4 millimeter balance adapter. But that's just, again, because it's what I'm used to using my IEMs with. But really, outside of that, I actually like the tuning. It's different than the way that a lot of other companies, especially a lot of the companies' products that I test, it's tuned different than that mainstream consumer-friendly sound. And it's really, really good with gaming and movies, just because the focus on dialogue and the mids, and the focus on details, just it has a really good balance that way. But guys, that's my video on the RUMAUDIO Blues IEM. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.